There are two clashes in this debate. Firstly, about accessibility, and secondly, about mental health. And I will show you uh, how we win both clashes. Firstly, about accessibility. I don't think that the government has argued best case for their side of the house, so I will. Why beauty standard is so unrealistic? Let me argue government's best case. Because beauty influencers will be incentivized to do be most beautiful because they want to get admiration, they want to get followers. They will seek the most expensive treatment, most expensive drugs for easy for, which is why it is so accessible to poor people and why is it so dangerous, because when you lock beauty standard behind these expensive drugs, when beauty standard is contingent on consuming these expensive treatments, the people will not have the monetary resources to access these treatments, will never feel beautiful. But here's why that case fails. Firstly, some mitigation. So it wouldn't actually be that bad if the standard exists on the via the their side of the house standard exists on traditional media, because at least on our side, as that where it's promoted on the internet, because the internet is so big, anonymous, and unlimited, there will still be people who are going to post beauty content to cater to the lower market, who uses inexpensive cosmetics, for example, or who teaches them tips and tricks to be on a budget, or just so idealistic and wants to be empathetic and sympathetic to their fan base, right? But here's why there is no incentive for beauty influencers and companies to not cater to the lower market, thereby improving accessibility, and there will actually be incentive. So why is it that why beauty influencers are incentivized to do something, and why is it that companies are incentivized to do something in this context? The reason why beauty influencers are incentivized to do something is because they want to get followers by two things. Firstly, being beautiful, and second, by virtues. Companies obviously want profits by firstly promoting their product so they can sell it more, and second, choosing their product actually looks good. So if we can show you that these incentives are fulfilled better on our side, that means beauty culture, that means internet beauty culture actually be incentivized to cater to these as well. So here's why beauty influencers and companies will be incentivized. Most people are not at the percent because most beauty products are seen expensive or unreachable. If you just market to them, it will be a very saturated market. So and it will be incentivized to also fulfill the needs of the huge untapped core market that were previously were unable to buy these drugs, right? These profits. So with company incentive, obviously these companies will sponsor beauty influencers to their products. Therefore, beauty influencers will have an incentive inexpensive products, thereby improving access. But even so, beauty influencers themselves independently, they will also be incentivized promote and cater to these lower class of people because of two things. Firstly, because they want to virtue signal that beauty is not expensive, that even if you are poor, you can be just as beautiful as me. They want to look good, therefore they want more followers. And secondly, when they use inexpensive products that everyone can buy, their tips, their standards immediately become more relevant and is immediately a better product for these lower class people. Most people, because most people are probably lower class, right? To Because they are literally more relevant, and it will instantly improve the quality of his of their content, right? Because more people will watch it, and because it's so related to them. So it fulfills the incentive of company and beauty influencers to make expensive product. Therefore, thereby actually company and beauty influencers will make cheaper products, therefore making it more accessible. But here's the flip. No, accessibility will actually be worse exactly on your side of the house. Because when you create beauty standards with producers, with big modeling companies at the helm of it, you will be guaranteed to not have it accessible, because these models, these products are achieved with company and investor resources, with decades of experience, engineered solely to look the best. This is where the industry becomes exactly unreachable, right? Because when you gatekeep beauty behind these big resources, behind these decades of experience, behind the engineering of it, so on magazine covers, there is very little chance of people who are poor, or even people who are middle class, or even people who are very rich outside of these very specific circles, to actually be as beautiful and realize these beauty standards. At least on our side of the house, people can still upload content independently and at least be relatable. But on their side of the house, it is guaranteed that when you gatekeep beauty behind an elitist and exclusive game, for example, an elitist and exclusive gate, you will be guaranteed to have an unreachable standard. So when it happens somehow, there will still be post beauty contests to cater to people who are poor, right? The mitigation. But this shouldn't actually happen in the first place because there is incentive and for companies and beauty influencers to actually cater so to the lower class people. So that would people also that would improve accessibility. But here's the flip, it's really even worse on the house. Government clash. Secondly, a clash about mental health. Government mentioned that the proliferation of mental health, given that these standards would incentivize teenagers to be insecure and poor people to be insecure and creating mental health problems on our side of the house. Obviously, I have rebutted your claim that beauty would be inaccessible and beauty influencers would be incentivized to lower markets and virtue signal to people how all beauty is fine, for example. But let's be generous to opposition and just say that they are not financially incentivized to cater to the lower classes and therefore to create the countervailing narrative to this debate saying that all people can be beautiful. Here's why we still win this clash even at government's best case or even at government's best scenario. First, on mitigation. Stress have always existed on both sides of the house and stress comes from many things and it's ridiculous to expect beauty as something that would add more to the stress as for example work or school for example. These are more important things and therefore stressful more than beauty. That's just mitigation though. Here's why it's not going to happen in the first place. It's uncharitable to assume people are that bad. These beauty influencers on our side of the house will actually, because they interact more with their fan base, because they interact more with their comment section, because it's very direct, they will actually attempt to virtue signal, oh, it's good, and create a countervailing narrative for themselves, while on their side of the house, when these big companies doesn't really care about how people feel, they just care about, putting the best on magazines, right? But here's an even if. Mental stress would be created, but even so, there are going to be mental health resources available to handle the mentally broken state that people are in due to beauty culture. On our side of the house, it's better because even if mental health issues persist symmetrically, by having the phenomenon much more publicized and spread through the internet, there would be greater accessibility of resources to deal with the issues of mental health. And comparatively, on the other side of the house, mental health resources capable of dealing with these problems is scarce because they would be limited to in regards to beauty, right? Because when you see hot girls in magazine covers and feel insecure, the only resource you have on their side of the house would be the school counselor who doesn't really care because magazines and magazines and billboards, for example, are not distributed as widely as the internet. So here's the flip, though. Notice how we mentioned mental health as a phenomenon on our side of the house, but fail to mention that the same thing will still persist even if it's all offline or traditional media. And it's usually going to be worse on their side. When beauty influencers go into the internet, there is an incentive for people to post themselves on how to be beautiful, those to think of themselves and and form ideals of beauty in a community. Since the internet is so anonymous and unlimited, there would likely be a lot of people posting content from a more diverse class and culture pool than on their side of the house. And since this allows for self-actualization and self-empowerment and self-expression, this would mean on our side mental health is better, but on your side mental health is worse because instead of having platform for self-actualization, you have traditional media that are gatekept by a limited and limited number of users, for example, that has a fixed beauty standard with no incentive to be relatable and have models picked out from and groomed specifically for looking good, right? Which is only 1% of all girls. So this will create mental health issues and therefore win this clash. Therefore, win this space so proud to oppose.